Can you assure the community that we will not have power shortages over the coming summer period due to coal shortages?
So if you're using every single power station in Western Australia and one of them broke down, there would be blackouts. That's just the way the system works.
I refer to WA's current coal supply issues with Premier Coal, with whom the government has an enforceable coal supply contract, and I ask, what action have you taken to ensure Synergy enforces the contract? And 2, what have been the outcomes of your actions in terms of ensuring Synergy secures adequate coal supplies for this summer as per the long-term contract?
The Minister for Energy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So just before I answer that question, I'll just let you know that the name of the consulting firm that's helping Western Power is called, on the bushfire issues, is called Ecological. Look, it is absolutely true that Synergy does have an enforceable contract with Premier Coal, and it could sue for damages, liquidated damages against Premier Coal for its failures to supply the contracted volumes of coal. The problem with that is it might lead to Premier Coal going into liquidation. And that's actually not in the interests of West Australians, because if we all know the troubles at Griffin. Imagine if Premier Coal had the same financial challenges as Griffin Coal. It would make not only the community of Collie a disaster zone, it would turn off the lights in Western Australia. Now, if that's your plan, no wonder you sit where you do.
No, they can take other actions. You know they can take other actions.
You just don't get this issue. Premier Coal is not. Premier Coal is a foreign-owned private company, as is Griffin. The government of Western Australia cannot. It's not that we don't want to. We cannot seize the assets of a foreign-owned company. It's just legally not possible. Because let me make it clear, it's not a company because of West Australian law, it's a company because of Commonwealth law. We can't overturn the Constitution of Australia because we don't like the outcomes that the free market in Western Australia for coal deliveries is providing to us. It's just like the free market is exactly that. Now, we do not operate any coal mines in Western Australia. We have a contract with them. So what has occurred is that Synergy has discussed the issues around that and asked Premier Coal to provide 100,000 tonnes of more coal than they would otherwise get between now and Christmas. And how is Premier Coal, through its owner Yancoal, providing that additional coal? What Premier Coal is doing is Yancoal owns Premier Coal, and Yancoal is the majority owner of a company called Yancoal Australia. Yancoal Australia actually operates the Premier mine, but that's owned by Yancoal, not by Yancoal Australia. Premier Coal, through its common ownership, has asked Yancoal Australia to provide 2 shipments of 50,000 tonnes of coal from New South Wales. And that's where they're going to make up part of the short deliveries that Premier Coal is responsible for. This is not an ideal outcome, but I just make the point. Government of Western Australia is not bringing any coal into Western Australia, and neither is Synergy. It's being brought into Western Australia by Yancoal Australia, who has common shareholding and operates Premier Coal. So that's a sensible outcome. Because if you took action to enforce the contract that we have with the Premier Coal and sought liquidated damages, that would take cash out of the business. It would make Synergy, the government of Western Australia's business Synergy better off, because we'd have the money that we took out of Yancoal, Premier, but it would mean the Premier business would go into financial challenge. Now, I note that there's a story by Dan Mercer about this issue. And what I said to Dan Mercer, and I'll say here, there is no magic wand. If we could walk down there and say, abracadabra, the coal supply is returned, we'd do it. But I live in the real world. I don't live in fantasy world. And so that's why I'm working with the leadership of Synergy, with the leadership of Energy Policy WA, with the other resources of government, to get a good outcome for the people of this state, and not playing, silly politics that makes no sense.
Supplementary question.
Supplementary question.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Minister, can you assure the community that we will not have power shortages over the coming summer period due to coal shortages?
Order, please, members.
So
Minister, I think you've been asked lots of versions of this question in recent times. Perhaps you could just give a short, clear answer.
Look, there are two separate issues. There are two separate questions in that, and I know you don't understand that, but I'll just make the point. There is the question of the coal-fired power stations in Collie that are owned by Synergy. We are currently confident that there will be sufficient coal supply for Synergy to make it through summer. There is a separate question that is responsibility of the Australian Energy Market Operator, which is not part of government, it's not part of Western Australia's government, it's not controlled by the government of Western Australia. They're the ones who operate the electricity system in terms of the power stations. The Australian Energy Market Operator has already, and I've answered this question previously, has gone to market for a supplementary reserve capacity for this summer because they think they're about 174 megawatts short, and they are currently working through what they can. Now, I'll make it clear, that is not for supply of electricity over summer because they have sufficient power stations for that. It's for the reserve margin. That is, if something goes wrong, what happens? Because remember, electricity is instantaneous. So if you're using every single power station in Western Australia and one of them broke down, there would be blackouts. That's just the way the system works. So we have to have a reserve margin, a number of power stations sitting idle, ready to take up the slack. And that's the challenge that we have for this summer. And the Australian Energy Market Operator, not the Government of Western Australia, and I know Paul Murray doesn't understand this either, that's what they're doing. And we're working, I'm engaging with the Australian Energy Market Operator on a constant basis. I met with the CEO when I was in Melbourne for the National Energy Ministers meeting. I talked to Kate Ryan, the strategy and whatever her proper title is here in Western Australia, that all-round legend, to work through these issues. It's not simple, it's complex, and that's why I understand why you don't understand it.